All right, so get this. We're going deep on quantum computing today, really deep.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
We're talking Bloomberg's documentary, Quantum Supremacy. And let me tell you, the name is no joke. They're really pushing the limits with this one.
Yeah, calling it a computational revolution isn't really an exaggeration when you see what they're building.
No kidding. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's rewind a bit. For those of us who didn't major in theoretical physics, what exactly is quantum computing?
Well, think of it this way. It's not just about making computers faster. It's about completely changing how we compute. These quantum computers can solve problems that would make even today's supercomputers seem like, well, like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded with one hand tied behind your back.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But how? The documentary kept mentioning these things called qubits. What's the deal with those?
Ah, qubits. That's where the magic happens. Imagine a light switch that can be both on and off at the same time. Mind-bending, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, that's essentially what a qubit is. It can exist in multiple states simultaneously. This superposition, as it's called, is what gives quantum computers their power.
So instead of tackling problems one step at a time, they're exploring all possible solutions at once. No wonder they're calling it a revolution.
Exactly. The potential applications are mind-blowing. The documentary gave this really cool example of designing drugs, like atom by atom.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Like building with molecular Legos, they said.
Yeah, exactly. And they talked about this team that's using quantum simulations to study how specific proteins interact, which could be the key to finally cracking Alzheimer's.
Wow. But the documentary also hinted at a darker side to all this, right?
Yeah.
Something about encryption and how this quantum revolution could change everything.
Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You see, today's encryption relies on complex math problems that would take a regular computer, well, basically forever to crack. But a powerful enough quantum computer, it could potentially blast through those codes like they were nothing.
Wait, so our online banking, our personal data, everything we thought was secure, gone.
That's the concern. In fact, the documentary interviewed some experts at HSBC who were really worried about this. They were saying current encryption methods could be obsolete in the next, 5 to 10 years?
What?
Yeah, and they even use this phrase, quantum apocalypse. Kind of sends chills down your spine.
Just a little bit. This isn't just about cool new tech anymore, is it? This is about who controls the future of, well, everything.
Right, this is a big deal. I mean, this isn't just another tech upgrade. This is a whole new ball game with stakes higher than we've ever seen before.
And speaking of nice stakes, the documentary didn't shy away from the competition heating up between the US and China. It's giving me serious space race vibes.
Totally, you can feel the tension. The documentary showed how both countries are pouring billions into quantum research. It's a full-blown tech arms race with each side trying to, well, out-quantum the other. And it's not just about who throws the most money at the problem.
Right.
They took us inside one of IBM's quantum labs in the documentary. It was wild, like a total clash of images.
Oh, yeah, I remember those shots.
It's like these super advanced machines kept colder than space itself.
Colder than space.
Yeah, seriously. But then all around them, it's just wires everywhere, blinking lights.
A total mess, yeah.
Exactly. You're expecting some sleek, futuristic setup, but it's not that.
It's true, though. It really highlights the complexity of it all.
Totally. And the documentary didn't shy away from the fact that this stuff is hard. Like really, really hard.
Yeah, it's not just a matter of scaling up what we already have, is it?
Not at all. It's a whole new beast. Each of those qubits, they're incredibly sensitive to any kind of disturbance.
I remember that part. They said even the slightest vibration or change in temperature can mess everything up.
Exactly. It's like trying to build a house of cards in the middle of a hurricane. Makes you wonder if the US and China are really the only ones in this race, or if other players could emerge.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Because if it's this difficult, who knows who else might be making breakthroughs behind the scenes?
Precisely. And while the documentary focuses mainly on the US and China, they did mention some really cool research happening in other parts of the world, like Singapore.
Oh, right. With Professor Ling and his team.
Yeah, they're doing some amazing work with quantum communication networks using satellites.
Unhackable communication channels, they call them.
Yep. It sounds like science fiction, but they showed them actually doing it, beaming these entangled photons, those weird particles Einstein talked about, across continents.
It's mind-blowing, honestly. I mean, it really shows how this technology has the potential to reshape the world in ways we can barely imagine.
It really does, and I think that's why it's so important to remember that this isn't just a competition. Collaboration is key, too.
Right, we're all in this together kind of thing.
Exactly, and the documentary touched on this tension between competition and collaboration. On one side, you've got these superpowers, each trying to get the upper hand, but you've also got voices like Professor Lang's advocating for international cooperation and responsible development.
Because the implications are huge, right?
Yeah.
This isn't just about who gets the fastest computers or wins some tech race. It's about the future of everything.
Exactly. And it's easy to get caught up in the technical details, but at the end of the day, this technology will impact every single one of us.
So where does that leave us, the everyday folks, who barely understand how our smartphones work, let alone a quantum computer?
Well, first off, don't panic.
Easy for you to say.
But seriously, the documentary makes a strong case for public education. The more we understand about this technology, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the challenges and opportunities it brings.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, as they say. But let's be real for a second. One of the most pressing concerns is the whole encryption thing. If these quantum computers can break any code, what does that mean for our personal data?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It's kind of reassuring, though, that there are people already on top of this, like a whole quantum security race happening in the background.
Oh, absolutely. It's not like everyone's just sitting around twiddling their thumbs waiting for the quantum apocalypse to hit.
True, true. But like you were saying before, this goes way beyond just protecting data, right? It's about figuring out what kind of future we're building with this tech. That really stuck with me from the documentary.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, they really nailed it with the big questions quantum computing raises, questions about what it even means to understand the world around us. Remember how Professor Ling put it, we're not just talking about faster calculations here, but a fundamental shift in how we see information and, well, reality itself.
It's almost a philosophical thing when you think about it like that. It really does feel like we're at this crazy crossroads, right? Where this technology could either, I don't know, help us solve climate change, cure diseases, or it could create this even more divided world where only a select few get to reap the benefits.
It's that classic dilemma, isn't it? And the documentary did a good job of showing both sides, the amazing potential and the very real risks. On one hand, you've got researchers developing life-saving drugs, new materials, things that could change the world for the better. But then there's that darker side, the potential for quantum warfare, for example.
Right, like imagine if someone used this technology to crash the global economy or something.
Exactly. It's a lot to wrap your head around. And it made me think about that scene with the students learning to program quantum computers. They were all so excited about the possibilities, and rightfully so.
They were, weren't they? It gave you a little bit of hope for the future, seeing their enthusiasm.
It did. But it also made me wonder if we're doing enough to prepare them for the ethical challenges they're going to face. Because it's one thing to understand the science, but it's another thing entirely to grapple with the consequences, you know?
Absolutely. And that's something the documentary highlighted really well, the need for open, honest conversations about this technology.
100%. We can't just leave it to the scientists and policymakers. This is something everyone needs to be talking about, understanding, and engaging with. Because the decisions we make today, they're going to have ripple effects for generations to come.
Well said. This has been quite the deep dive. We've gone from the mind-bending science of quantum mechanics to the race for quantum supremacy to the potential impact on our everyday lives.
It's a lot to process, that's for sure. But I think the key takeaway here is that the quantum revolution is already happening. Whether we're ready or not, it's here.
So, to our listeners, we'll leave you with this. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged. The future is being written right now, and it's up to all of us to shape it.